APC's presidential campaign canceled. He joins us from Lagos Island. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Tell us about your party's impression of INEC's preparation for these elections.
Well, we have heard from them. The PVC distribution has now reached 80%. That is good for the country. Although when they said from the beginning, before the postponement, that they were ready for the election, we believed them. And of course, convinced that they didn't themselves request, for the postponement of the election. It was the government that felt perhaps they needed this time, and that was why they put it off.
But at that time, distribution wasn't the 80% you talk about now. So hasn't your views changed when they said they were ready but did not attain 80%? Because over 20 million people may have been disenfranchised if we went ahead with elections. Did that matter to you at the time?
Of course, every single vote is important to us. We don't wish that one Nigerian voter is denied their all right to vote. However, INEC stood before the National Council on States and said, we are ready to proceed with the election. And they said that they were convinced that perhaps the balance of days were enough for them to do the PGC. So we believed them.
So now, given the situation security-wise, the areas that have been reclaimed, the lost territories that the military has been able to reclaim, does it justify or somewhat underscore maybe the need why the elections were rescheduled in the first instance?
No justification could have come from the military operation. Military operation could have continued, notwithstanding. Look, the fact of the matter is that the PDP were not ready for the election, and they needed time. And now they have got 6 weeks. And you can see what they are doing with their 6 weeks. You can see all of the things that are playing out. They are hammering at the PDCs. They are attacking Mr. Jega's integrity. They're doing all sorts of things. Look at the kind of things. Massive negative propaganda, libeling people on television. This is what they need the time for. That's what they're doing.
Let me get Mr. Tunji Shelle, the chairman of PDP in Lagos, to respond to what you just spoke about. Is that true, what he says?
Well, PDP is ever ready for election, and that's why we've been winning in the last 16 years. I want to say that if APC saw the need to go into an election that time around, it means they are not being realistic. It's the stage, the floor was open for a debate and discussion on this issue. They invited the presidential candidate to come and defend the party's position, that is APC's position. He refused to come out. So I'm surprised. My brother from Lagos Island is now saying it's PDP that is not ready. PDP is ready for election as long as everything is ready. Up till this moment, INEC has not even perfected its own preparations. There are fake PVCs out there. There are cloned PVCs.
Is that a fault of INEC?
Probably so. They must have allowed left room for
the CP has just said now that things are going according to plan.
Well, I know there are fake, cloned PVCs out there. How did this happen? I know that a lot of PVCs have been stolen or snatched. How did it happen? I know that a lot of PVCs that were meant for Ogun State have been taken to Bauchi or Cross River State. How did this happen? It's not the fault of PDP. So if PDP now raises an alarm that INEC is not prepared, we have justification for that. We are not playing pranks. We want to go into the election because we know we are going to win in the elections from Lagos to Abuja and beyond.
Let Kayode Idowu clarify. Let him speak to this matter, perhaps once and for all. Could you tell us those PVCs, with respect to the distribution of the PVCs in Ogun State? The governor did complain at the time that they were not happy with the level of PVCs there, and then some PVCs that were meant for certain states were found in other states. And only recently, okay, first of all, speak to those ones, and then we'll come to the next one.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for that question. I would like to call your attention to the fact that the Ogun State Office of INEC has responded sufficiently to that claim. There are no alien PVCs resident in Ogun State. And we talk about these things as if they are not human operations. If in the course of delivering PVCs, you find situations where there are inadvertent deliveries of PVCs from one state in the other state, it doesn't take long for these things to be rectified. Immediately people on ground discover any such thing happening, they send those PVCs to where they properly should go. And so the impression that some alien PVCs are domiciled in another state is not correct. It's not part of INEC's operations.
Okay, well, there are those who are talking about the internally displaced persons. We had an eyewitness reporter who did tell us that the long distance between two major IDP camps in Yola, one is near the NNPC depot, and the NYSC camp, the other. And then they say the venue, the distance between both areas and where they stay is about 10 kilometers. And they wonder how they'll be able to get there, since on election day, there will be no movement. Movement will be restricted.
You see, the general design of IDP voting that INEC came up with is to locate voting centers in safe areas that are equidistant between the IDP camps and the host communities. Because the voting centers are intended to cater to IDPs that are in camps, as well as IDPs that are in host communities. And so they are located in places where they will be accessible by those that are in camps, as well as accessible to those that are in those host communities. I do not have the facts of the particular case you are referring to, but I am aware that the general design is that the location of the voting centers will be places that will be accessible to both IDPs, either they are in the camps or they are in the host communities.
Okay, he mentions the area. He says IDPs from Michika who are living in Yola in Adamawa State. That's the capital of Adamawa State. So he's talking about the points where the IDPs are located.
Yeah, but if the camps if the voting centers were designated for Yola, and there's a challenge in Michika, the whole idea is that IDPs who have been displaced from Michika will have opportunity to vote in Yola. It is not expected that they will come all the way from Michika on election day, because, as it were, they have been displaced from there. I mean, prior to this counterinsurgency operation that has been ongoing. So the idea of voting centers is not taking into account the fact that, or is not intended to be the fact that people will come all the way from the communities from where they have been displaced, because they are no longer in those communities in the first place. They are already in the urban areas that are safer. And the voting centers are located in those urban areas where they can go there and perform their civic duty.
So, but they are not located in the camps, because what he seems to be saying is the location where they are supposed to move to go and vote haven't been displaced, because when they're displaced, I think it says they're resident in NYC camp. And if they have to go to NNPC depot where they're supposed to vote, that's about 10 kilometers.
No, you see, the voting camps are not, the voting centers are not located in IDP camps. It is only in Borno State where stakeholders insisted that they preferred the voting centers to be in camps because of security. But generally, the design is that the